It was supposed to be a routine stop. At least that's what Officer Brad Dawson thought when he pulled over a black woman in a sharp business suit, claiming she looked suspicious. He didn't expect her to question him, to push back against his accusations. But Brad had done this before. Plant evidence, twist the story, make sure people like her never stood a chance. He smirked as he tightened the cuffs around her wrists, convinced he had just ruined another life. But what Brad didn't know was that his world was about to turn upside down. The woman he was dragging toward his patrol car wasn't just anyone. She was Maya Caldwell, the department's newly appointed police captain. She had spent years fighting for justice, working twice as hard to prove herself in a system designed to keep people like her out. And now the very officer trying to frame her was under her command. As Brad processed her ID at the station, thinking he had won, the whispers started. Officers exchanged glances, some shifting uncomfortably. Then the chief's voice cut through the tension. "Uncuff her. Now." Brad turned, confused, until his eyes landed on Maya, now standing tall in her captain's uniform. Brad's stomach dropped. He looked at Maya, now free from the cuffs he had so confidently slapped on her wrists just minutes ago. How was this possible? He had run her ID. How did he miss this? The station, usually filled with a steady hum of chatter and ringing phones, felt eerily silent as every officer turned to watch. Maya met his gaze, her expression unreadable. She could have snapped, could have humiliated him right then and there. But instead, she took a slow breath, straightened her uniform, and calmly stepped forward. "Officer Dawson," she said, her voice steady, "we need to talk." Brad swallowed hard. He knew he had messed up, badly, but he didn't know just how much trouble he was really in. He glanced at his fellow officers, searching for backup, but no one moved. Some looked away. Others seemed to be waiting, watching how this would unfold. Maya turned to the chief. "I'd like a full review of his body cam footage," she said. The words hit Brad like a punch. He had done this before. Covered his tracks. Lied when needed. But this time was different. This time, he had framed the wrong woman. Brad could feel the sweat forming on his forehead as he forced himself to stay still. His mind raced. The body cam footage, if Maya got her hands on it, everything would fall apart. He had always been careful, making sure his version of the story was the only one that mattered. But this time, he had messed with the wrong person. Maya didn't look angry. That was what scared him the most. She was calm, composed, as if she had already won. She turned to the chief. "I assume Officer Dawson has no objections to us reviewing the footage immediately." Brad opened his mouth, searching for an excuse, a way out, but the chief's sharp glare stopped him cold. "Of course not," he muttered, forcing a weak smile. His heart pounded as an officer was sent to pull up the recordings. Meanwhile, whispers spread through the department. Some officers exchanged glances, others pretended to focus on their work. Not everyone in this station was clean. Brad knew that. And if Maya was about to start digging, she wouldn't stop with him. As the minutes stretched on, Brad's thoughts darkened. He needed a plan. Because if that footage showed what really happened, his career, and possibly his freedom, would be on the line. The station felt heavier with every passing second. Brad's pulse pounded in his ears as the officer returned, a flash drive in hand. The body cam footage. It was all happening too fast. He had no time to think, no time to cover his tracks. He watched as Maya took the drive, her expression unreadable, and turned toward the chief's office. "Let's review it together," she said, her voice steady. The chief gave a nod, motioning for Brad to follow. His feet felt like they were made of concrete, but he forced himself to move. The other officers remained frozen, pretending to work, but their stolen glances told the truth. They were all waiting for the fallout. Inside the office, the blinds were drawn, the atmosphere tense. Maya inserted the drive, and the screen flickered to life. Brad's breathing turned shallow. He knew what was coming. The stop, the accusations, the moment he slipped something into her bag when she wasn't looking. He clenched his fists, praying for a glitch, for something, anything, to save him. But then the voices played back crisp and clear. His voice, his lies, the image of his own hand moving where it shouldn't. Maya didn't react. She simply turned to face him. Care to explain? Brad opened his mouth, but no words came out. His career, his reputation, everything was unraveling right in front of him. And he had nowhere left to run. Brad's mind raced as he struggled to find an answer, but there was nothing he could say. The footage spoke for itself. He was caught. But just as the chief opened his mouth, the door to the office swung open. Officer Martinez, one of Brad's longtime allies, stepped in, his face tight with urgency. "Captain, you might want to see this," he said, holding out another flash drive. Maya's eyes narrowed as she took it, glancing between Martinez and the chief. Brad, still frozen, felt a flicker of something. Hope? What was on that drive? Maya inserted it into the computer, and a new video played. This one wasn't from Brad's body cam. It was security footage from inside the station. The timestamp showed it was from earlier that morning. The screen showed Brad talking to another officer in the hallway, someone Maya recognized instantly, Lieutenant Parker. The conversation had no sound, but the body language was clear. Parker handed something small to Brad. An evidence bag. Maya's stomach tightened. This wasn't just about one bad cop. This went deeper. Much deeper. She glanced at the chief, who suddenly looked pale. "You knew," she said, her voice low. The chief didn't respond, but his silence said everything. The room felt like it had lost all its air. Brad's eyes darted between Maya and the chief, his last hope slipping through his fingers. The security footage was damning, but Maya wasn't looking at him anymore. She was staring at the chief, waiting for an answer. The chief exhaled sharply. "Captain Caldwell, this isn't what you think." His voice was steady, but there was a crack in it, just enough to betray the truth. Maya folded her arms. "Oh, because what I think is that this department has a bigger problem than just Officer Dawson." She nodded toward the screen, where Parker's face was frozen mid-exchange. "How deep does this go?" Brad saw his opening. If he went down, he wasn't going alone. "You think I'm the only one?" He scoffed. "I was just doing what I was told." The chief turned sharply. "Shut your mouth, Dawson." But it was too late. Maya had caught it, the shift in the chief's tone, the way his hand tightened into a fist. She had been in this game long enough to know when someone was covering their tracks. A slow, knowing smile crossed her face. "Looks like we'll need to open a full investigation." The chief tensed. "Now listen." Before he could finish, the station doors burst open. A group of internal affairs officers stepped inside. The lead agent held up a badge. "Chief Reynolds, you need to come with us." The chief's face went pale. Brad's stomach flipped. This wasn't just about him anymore. The entire department was about to change. As the officers moved in, Maya met Brad's eyes one last time. "You thought you were setting me up," she said quietly. "But in the end, you set yourself up." Brad swallowed hard as the weight of his choices finally crashed down. There was no escaping this. Not anymore. As the chief was led away, the station remained silent. Officers exchanged uneasy glances, some in shock, others as if they had been expecting this moment for a long time. The corruption had been festering beneath the surface, and now it was finally being ripped out. Brad sat frozen, his mind blank. Everything he had built, every shortcut he had taken, every lie he had told, it had all led to this. No badge, no power, no escape. He could already hear the whispers. Some officers would distance themselves from him, claiming they had no idea. Others might be next in line for investigation. Either way, he was done. Maya took a deep breath, letting the weight of the moment settle in. This wasn't just about Brad or even the chief. It was about the kind of department she wanted to lead. One built on justice, not fear. She turned to the remaining officers. "Things are going to change around here," she said, her voice firm. "And if you can't be part of that change, now's your chance to walk away." No one moved. Maya nodded, then walked toward her office, ready to rebuild what had been broken. One step at a time.